We are back. We are back. We are back.
Back in the house, y'all. Back in the house.
It's the post-draft time period now. Post-draft. No more mocks. No more mocks.
No mocks. We're mock free.
Mock free. This is a mock free zone. Everything is for real right now.
Real now, for real.
And I
And
tell you,
what'd you think about the draft?
hey, hold on. Clay from Brooklyn.
Oh, football with the fellas.
Hold me
And
back
who's my
there.
man?
That's my man Clay from Brooklyn over there.
Yes, and who's this over here? Is this my man Mazo?
It's all about Big Blue, baby.
Looks just like him.
All about
Yes,
Big Blue.
Yes, it is. All about Big Blue.
Man, let me tell you something. Oh, let me say something too. I want to say we had a great time, tell the viewers, we had a great time with the other fellas. Like Chris Hill. What's up? What's up?
What's up, Chris Hill?
Who's done?
Brucey D in the house.
Yeah, we had the other fellas on and we were, watching the draft together. And
Yes.
we had a great time, but it
Oh,
was
yeah.
a very interesting draft.
It's an annual gathering, right? That's really where the idea of football with the fellas came from last year, the last couple of years, us getting together to watch draft day one together. So that's always great to see the guys that we grew up with. And
It's
this
the
was
other,
a great draft for us.
it's the other fellas.
The other fellas. The other fellas. Some of them anyway. There's more fellas than that, but
Yes.
some of them.
But yeah, I think that this draft, well, that first pick we know right now, that was
That's a home
was
run.
the pick. That was
That was
the
the pick. That was the pick.
right there was an A+ right there.
So glad we didn't mess that up. Yes.
Woo! We could have easily done that too.
Could have easily messed that up. And honestly, the second pick, Jackson Dart, I was worried we'd have to give up a lot more than that to move up into the first round again to take him. And all we wound up giving up really is 2 third-round picks, one this year and one next year. Right?
Like, what do you really think about that though? Do you think, because there's talk out there, some people think like that maybe we gave up a little too much. We could have gave up maybe one less third-round pick or.
So I don't think so. I don't think if you think you have the quarterback that you want to play around, let's go get him. Let's give the team. And I'm sure, in fact, I heard Shane say on one of the interviews that as it got to around 20, he started looking at which teams might be interested in making a trade down.
Okay.
So
Okay.
he was already, making those calls and trying to figure out where to go a few picks before Houston. And then it just happened to work out with Houston. I have a feeling, I didn't hear him say this, but I have a feeling that once they hit 21 and Pittsburgh didn't take him,
Right.
that they really said, all right, this can be real. Like
This can be real.
this is no longer theoretical. Let's get this done. And it just took them a couple of more picks after Pittsburgh to get it done. So yeah, no, 2/3 is not a lot to give up if you really do have the quarterback of the future.
And this is the we'll see type of thing,
Right.
We'll
It's
see.
the incomplete. The grade is incomplete for
Right.
at least a year. But the idea that we had to trade up for him, that doesn't bother me. In fact, the Rams, who had the 26th pick, got a first round pick to trade out of 26. Right? They traded away their 26th pick. Right? We moved it up to 25.
Right.
In many people's opinion, myself included, the Rams were the next team that was perhaps going to take Jackson Dart. So we wanted to get ahead of them. And as soon as we did, they traded their 26th pick and they got a first. So
Right.
if we only gave up 2/3 for 25 and somebody had to give up a first for
Yeah.
26, then obviously we did pretty well.
Right. Okay. I was just wondering what you thought about that because I just got excited when we knew the trade. Remember, we knew the trade was coming. We heard the music.
And we're like,
It was, what did they do? Shane, what did you do?
But I was thrilled that he did. First of all, I didn't want Shedeur Sanders. I just didn't want the Dion drama. And apparently the other 31 teams agreed because he lasted till like the 14th, 15th round or whatever. I think he's still waiting. But and I feel bad for the young man. I mean, in all sincerity, I feel bad for him personally.
Right.
But I did not want him on the Giants. I didn't want any of that drama. So I'm glad it wasn't him. I knew it was going to be a quarterback. You don't trade up into the first round very often for a non-quarterback. Not very often. And I knew how badly Shane and Dable needed to show Mara that they could get a new quarterback and work with him. So, and it turned out to be Dart. I was fine with that. I didn't really want it to be Tyler Shock. That was another one I was thinking. Tyler Shuffle, or however you say his last name. I think there were people who were thinking it might have been him. I was like, please don't let it be him. I mean,
If it was him, that would have been, I had to cut the TV up. I would have had to leave our Zoom if it was shook. I
So
would have
I'm
had
glad it wasn't.
to, gosh, no.
But then the next three picks were home runs also. I was really happy with the next three picks. Darius Alexander, I think, is going to be a very good defensive tackle. I'm not saying he's going to be Dexter Lawrence, but I think he's going to be a very solid defensive tackle. And that's all we need.
Solid is good.
Solid is good. If he's above average, if he's top 14 to 16
Right.
defensive tackle, fine with me. And I think he has that ability. I think he really does.
I mean, if we just put it all together, you add him to, like we said, we're trying to add him to the mix. Is he going to be, let me ask you this though, is he going to be playing next to Dexter?
So it's funny you should say that because I've been looking online, as we mentioned earlier, at some of the different websites who project where a player, what the depth chart's going to look like and where a player is going to be. So, and there's obviously nobody really knows yet. Like we haven't even started OTAs yet, much less camping. But there are a lot of different sites that have an opinion about this. So I'm going to start with ESPN. So ESPN, and shout out to ESPN for having this, right? We appreciate that you have this. But if you look at ESPN, their perception of our starters are Roaches is going to start in one defensive tackle spot. They call it left defensive end, but they're really interior defensive lineman. Dexter Lawrence is the nose tackle, and they have Chauncey Golston starting as the other interior defensive lineman. So they're listing Darius Alexander as a backup to Roaches. I don't think that's going to happen. And they're listing Jordan Riley and Elijah Chapman as the other second string defensive lineman. And then there's Roy Robertson Harris and Jeremiah Ledbetter, who we just signed, and they're looking at them as third stringers, right? And then there's other guys back here as well. So that's what ESPN says about our interior. And you'll notice that they have Abdul Carter starting with Kayvon backing him up.
Right. That's why I looked at that. I was going crazy.
I'll be honest, I'm not surprised that they have it listed like that. Abdul Carter was the third overall pick. He's getting on the field. The question is exactly where and how often, but I'm not mad at them for listing Abdul Carter ahead of Kayvon Thibodeaux. I'm not surprised by that. And of course, they have Paulson Adebo and Tyler Nubin and Javon Holland. So, I agree with a lot of what they're saying. I don't agree with Chauncey Golston. I don't agree with Joaquin Nunez-Roches. So that's one site who has their take on, who's going to be starting for us. If you look at ourlads.com is another site. In fact, I think Louis Riddick was mentioning them during the draft broadcast, that he uses them as well. So ourlads.com, if you look at them, they have Roy Robertson Harris listed as one of the starting defensive tackles.
Interesting.
With Darius Alexander backing him up, which I guess isn't that important which one he backs up, but as a backup. And Jeremiah Ledbetter as the other second stringer with DJ Javison. So in fact, they are completely disagreeing with who's the second string, much less the first string.
Right.
And they also have Abdul Carter starting and Kayvon Thibodeaux backing him up. So that's a second option for, if you're going online and looking to see who's likely to start. And guess where I'm going next?
PFF.
PFF.
Shout out to PFF.
Shout out to PFF. They've got all kinds of tools. All kinds of tools.
Here.
But if you look at PFF, they're listing Roy Robertson Harris as a starting defensive tackle.
Right.
And they're listing Abdul Carter and Burns as the outside linebacker, edge rushers, right? And again, this is now in the nickel defense. If you click here and switch to the base defense, then they take Drew Phillips off the field and they bring in Golston. So again, they don't have Darius Alexander starting either. So they have Golston and Nunez-Roches starting. And I just don't see that. Again, it's early. So maybe some of this is just, well, let's give the veterans the respect. We're still in April.
Right.
These guys haven't even signed their contract yet, much less put any pads on. So let's not rush them into the starting lineup, although they did rush Abdul Carter into the starting lineup.
Really?
So I don't know. It just seems to me that all of this is clearly speculation and nothing to get worried about. But if you ask me, I think Darius Alexander is going to start as a interior defensive lineman. Whether you call it defensive tackle or defensive end isn't as important to me. But he'll be starting next to Dexter. And as you said, I think that Robertson Harris and Roaches are going to be the depth pieces.
Oh yeah. I just want to see it where I have Thibodeau, Carter,
And
Dexter,
Burn,
and Burns on the field at the same time. And I want to see quarterbacks screaming and yelling, running for their lives. That's what I want to see. That's what I want to see this year.
absolutely, absolutely, and we're going to see that. Like I don't know if we're going to see that, 70 snaps a game, which is all of them, right? The average game has about 70 snaps. But I do think there's going to be a good 10 to 15 snaps where all of them are on the field at the same time,
Right.
and mostly in obvious passing situations. What I love, I think we talked about this briefly last time. Right now, Dexter's playing too much. If you ask me, Dexter Lawrence is playing too many snaps for a 350-pound man going into his 7th year. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
This is a lot to ask of him, and getting double teamed every play and triple teamed someplace. Like if we want his prime to last,
Right.
we got to get him some help, and we got to get him off the field. Right? So if you ask me, I'd rather Dexter play 40, 45 snaps a game. And if Darius Alexander can sub for him 10 snaps a game, that's fine with me. And then maybe out of those 45, when Dexter's on the field, maybe Darius Alexander is also on the field for 35 or 40 of them.
Right.
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 So there's a lot of overlap where they're both there. But sometimes when Dexter comes off, Darius stays on. Right. I don't want too many plays where both of them are off the field.
Right. We can't. Well, we actually couldn't afford that right now. In theory, we can't right now. I mean, but
That's what we had last year because we didn't have Darius Alexander, right? So
right.
every time Dexter stepped off the field, we basically were in that situation where both of those two were not on the field. And teams ran the ball down.
Ran right down the gut. They just ran right down.
Yeah, the eyes just lit up. What? Dex is out? Check. Kill.
True.
Like, literally, you could hear quarterbacks say, "What? Where's 90? Kill."
True.
So
it was second and one a lot.
It was second and one a lot, or it was 3rd and 8, and they had called a pass, but then they saw Dex was off the field, so they called a run and ran for 9 yards.
Right. Yeah.
A lot of that. So yeah, Darius Alexander is a really big pickup. So I'm really pleased with that. And I would say that Cam Skidmore is going to be a huge. I mean, you know who he reminds me of?
Who's that? Ahmad Bradshaw. We think about that.
Just bouncing off people, just
bouncing off people,
go down. Maybe he doesn't have that elite long speed, but he's not slow. I mean,
he's quick. He has good feet. He has that jump cut down. If you watch him, and believe me, I've been watching videos, and I've watched him during the year. I've seen him in college,
right?
And especially that big bowl game he had, But if you watch him, he does follow his blocking. He sees the hole. He has great jump up ability, and then again, people are bouncing off of him, and I'm thinking because he's not that tall.
No,
but he's built like a rock.
He's a bowling ball, and he lowers his shoulder. He's got his pads lower than you. And he puts his hand down a lot. He'll put his left hand down after contact to keep from falling, and then he gets back up again. And a lot of running backs just go down and try to protect the ball. He's like, no, I want a few more yards.
Look, this is really going old school. This is not even a Giant thing. But he also reminds me of, remember Nottingham?
When I said bowling ball, in the back of my mind, I was like, who was that? Oh, yeah, Don. Yes.
Right. Don Nottingham.
For the Colts? Yeah, I remember him.
Same build. You could people bouncing off of him. And
I like that analogy.
The big difference with him is that right now is Scatterboo has hands. He can
Scatterboo has hands. He will catch the ball
on
the field too. Absolutely.
Now I like that.
I'm thrilled with that pick. And honestly, I remember you were saying, I think you picked him in one of your mock drafts, and I was saying, well, running back isn't as big a need as the line of scrimmage. So I'm fine with us picking him, but I was hoping to have addressed the offensive line or the defensive line, especially when we traded out of one of the 3rd round picks to get Jackson Dart. I was like, oh man, that's fewer picks now. I don't know if we can afford a running back. But I'll be honest, once we picked him, I was like, you know what? Fine. It's going to be fine.
Yeah, he's going to be fine. He's going to be good. He's going to be, and he's a good blocker too. I've seen him.
He's a good pass blocker too. He could be on the field all 3 downs.
Yeah.
I love that pick. I wasn't looking forward to that pick, But now that we have it, I'm very excited.
Yeah, yeah.
Very excited.
Just,
And then Marcus Bowe. Marcus Bowe is a beast. That young man, he played right tackle primarily, but he also played some guard and in his college career. And he is nasty. He loves pancaking people. He loves pushing you on the floor. I love that about him. I want offensive linemen who are like,
oh yeah,
want to take your heart.
oh yeah. I look back at it again. Went back to the videotape on him, and I seen quite a few times where he has a way. He has a funny way of setting the guy up. He'll take a step back, chuck him, and then if guy gets a little bit off balance, the next thing you know, he's on top of him. And I'm
Yes.
like,
Yes.
wrestling move?
Wrestling move, right. He gets both hands on the back of their shoulder pads.
Yeah.
Slams down, and then he falls on top of them.
I can deal with that. I can work with that. I can work with that.
He is a beast. And, he's a mature young man. He's got a 6-year-old son. He's 24 years old. He's got a 6-year-old son.
Wow.
So he's somebody that I'm sorry. I'm scratch that. That's Darius Alexander. That's a 6-year-old son. That is 24 years old. Marcus Bowe is not the one with the 6-year-old son. That's Darius Alexander. I just read that today on one of the Giants websites. I was like, really? I didn't know any of that. Darius Alexander. But Marcus Bowe is absolutely going to give Evan Neal and Greg Van Roten a run for their money at right guard. And that's what we need. That's what we need. We need competition along the front because the offensive line is what it's going to be about. That's what's going to be the key.
Oh, could you do me a favor? Could you pull up one of those graphs that you showed before? Because I want to see where the offensive line. That's one thing I didn't look at.
Okay.
Could you show me? Could you show me where Evan Neal have Evan Neal playing at? I bet you they got him at tackle.
Interesting that you say that. So here's our lads again. And our lads, so with our lads, they have Illuminor at right tackle.
Right.
Greg Van Roten at right guard. John Michael Schmitz at the center. John Runyon at left guard. Andrew Thomas at left tackle. And then they have the two guys we just signed, James Hudson and Stone Forsythe, as the backup tackles. And they put Evan Neal as a third string tackle. Here's Marcus Bowe. They have him as this backup right guard. Right? So that's our lads. That's how they see it. Now,
but what are we talking about? Moving them inside?
Unfortunately, or I don't know if it's unfortunately, but by coincidence, other people have a different perception of this, right? So it's not like that's a unanimous opinion. This one also has Evan Neal. This is ESPN's, has Evan Neal as the third string right guard.
Right.
No third string, but at right guard behind Marcus Bowe, which is interesting that they already have him at guard, but still third string. They still got Azudu here. They got Marcus. But yeah, so they still have Forsythe and Hudson as the backup tackles, but Evan Neal at guard. And so PFF doesn't show you the starters. I'm sorry, the backups. They just show you the starters, or they show you the entire roster. But then you don't really get a sense of who they perceive as second string and third string. So those two are disagreeing about whether Evan Neal is third string tackle or the third string guard. But it is interesting that they both have him as third string at different positions. The thing that I think Evan Neal is going to be most motivated by is we didn't pick up his 5th-year option. So he is playing for his NFL future right now.
True.
He has no money coming after this year unless we or somebody is impressed by what he does this year, right? This is his last year to just get by on his rookie deal.
But if he can
that's a great motivator for a lot of people.
But we need to move him inside, though. It's like you talk about this all the time. It's like we had these discussions. If he's inside, I think he's going to be more effective. Actually, that's where his skill set is right now. I mean, we see that now.
He's a very good run blocker in a phone booth, right? He's 6'7", 350. So if he gets his hands on you and his legs behind him and his pads low enough, there's not a whole lot of people who can brush that off. Oh, 6'7", 350. Get that. Get out. That's not a thing. That's not a thing. So yeah, it would be great if he can do that, but he can't pick up a stunt. Like I'm still worried about pass protection. He can't pick up a stunt to save his life. Now, in fairness, the guys who will be right in front of him, if it's not a stunt, are less mobile and less athletic
Right.
at guard
Right.
and at tackle, right? You're not facing these 6'4", 245, runs of 4'6" people who can dip and bend around the edge on you when you're playing guard. You're facing, 315-pound, 330-pound defensive tackles that don't do any of that. They
Right.
just basically try to outmuscle you, and he shouldn't be outmuscled.
Ever. But
Except maybe Dexter.
yeah, lucky he's in Big Blue.
That's good. Iron sharpens iron, steel sharpens steel, whatever that expression is. Maybe that's what they need, is to have him line up against Dexter every day in practice, and then the games will seem easy. Y'all only have Dexter. What? Light work. It's light work.
But we need that. I'm going back to Scatterboo. We need those guys in the interior to open up those little gaps, so he'll get through them. He'll get through them. And Tracy's expecting some good things out of him for the next year.
I think our running back room is very solid now. Very solid. I mean, I'd still rather have, let's just say it one last time, still rather the real 26, but that's not going to happen. And our running back room looks very good right now.
It looks solid. It does look solid.
And that guy they call Turbo, Dante Miller, who they almost never got the ball to last year or got him in any reps at all. He can fly. He is electric. And I think that Eric Gray and Devin Singletary's days are numbered here. If I were the Giants, I think, remember the Earth, Wind, and Fire backfield we had when we had Derek Ward was on the team, Anamon Bradshaw,
right,
and Jacobs? Like that was a lot of beef.
Yeah.
And elusiveness, in different size packages. Dante Miller is electric around the edges. If you get him the ball on a toss and he gets to the second level, or maybe you jump a screen to him, he's gonna make you pay. Like there's gonna be a lot. He's like a Jahmyr Gibbs level speed.
Right. Okay.
And if you've been softened up by Cam Scatterboo and Tyron Tracy all game, and then they just throw him in there every now and then as a change of pace, I would hate to have to cover him on a wheel route if I'm on the field at 6'5", 260 as an inside linebacker / defensive tackle who's there to try to stop the run, to fill up the box. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait, who's on the field?
Coach, get me off the field.
Coach, what about this? What am I supposed to do? You see the defense calling audibles. Check, kill.
Now, and this is where Russell Wilson comes in right there, because I think he's going to work well with these, with new weapons. We got a couple of new weapons, and another weapon. Like I look at Tracy being, I mean, it's funny. I don't know if you know Tracy. They make a big thing about him being a converted wide receiver into a running back. I know he had to play running back at some time in his life. It wasn't just like they just switched him up. And
yeah, but just towards the end of his college career, it was the last year or maybe two, but I think it was just the last year of his college career. He was a wide receiver till then. And honestly, you would think he'd be a better receiving running back,
right,
because of his years as a wide receiver. I was surprised they didn't use him more that way. He's the one who should be catching the wheel routes and double moves on an out and up or whatever against outside linebackers. So maybe they will this year.
This year they will, because again, we got more veteran, quarterbacks who can get the ball. Again, what is our big thing? Throw it past 10 yards, guys. Throw it past 10.
Or throw it past chains. Wherever the chains are. If it's 3rd and 15, throw it 16. If it's 3rd and 15, throw it 8. Please stop throwing the ball to Wan'Dale Robinson 5 yards short of the first down on 3rd down. Please stop doing that.
With a linebacker standing right in front of him.
Linebacker standing right in front of him, and a safety crashing down behind him in case he makes a first man miss. Please stop doing that.
We can't do that anymore. We just can't. We can't.
That's a good play on 1st and 10, right? If you're trying to give him a chance to beat the first man and pick up 5 or 6 yards on 1st and 10, I'm fine with that. But on 3rd and 8, no, that's not the play.
Right. Hey, before we go, we still know we need a kicker. We talked about that before. We need a kicker. Everything was good, but we need a kicker. Need a kicker.
And like I said, the first 5 picks, loved them. Loved those 5 picks. The last 2 picks, I don't really know much about them. I'm not going to talk about those guys like I know about them. But couldn't one of them have been a kicker? Like, were we afraid that Kobe Black was going to get snatched up by somebody else and we couldn't sign him as an undrafted free agent?
Right.
You're right. I think we should have took a kicker. This tight end Thomas Fadone, or however you say it, Fadone, I'm not sure how you say his name. I just heard today that 4 years ago when they were coming out of high school, he was the top ranked tight end in the country, higher than Brock Bowers.
Wow.
He just lit the world up on fire as a rookie this year in the NFL. But coming out of high school, this guy was ranked ahead of him. And then he had a couple of knee injuries and it kind of threw him off, and he, kind of fell by the wayside. So if he's getting close to back to his, full health and speed, maybe he is a sleeper.
Yeah, he will be, because they talk about he's only main thing he has to work on is again the blocking more. But he's more of a receiving tight end, which is fine with me. Because what is that? Our key to our teams, we always had a tight end, a big time tight end.
Right. And there are teams that have two tight ends. Chris Manhertz is the blocking tight end here.
Right.
Daniel Bellinger is not a bad blocking tight end.
No.
He's the second tight end, and he's the one that doesn't do the blocking. That's fine with me. Kelsey doesn't block a lot.
No. You don't hear about that. You don't hear about that.
All right, listen. I'm very happy with this draft overall.
Yeah, I am.
Looking forward to the improvements in the depth chart, right? We have different position groups that we were worried about before the draft seem to have gotten strengthened. Obviously, so did other teams. Like, we weren't the only team that got drafted. Right? Everybody got drafted.
Everyone got better.
But we did get better, and that was the goal. So kudos to Joe Schoen. I'm not the biggest Schoen fan.
Did you say kudos to Joe Schoen?
I did. Listen, I give him abuse when he deserves that. I give him props when he deserves that. And I think he did a great job with these first 5 draft picks. And maybe the other 2, I just don't know anything about them.
We will, though. We'll end up knowing something as we get close. It's funny. We're in the post-draft
glow.
The glow right now. We're getting the glow right now.
Right.
That's good. That's good.
It's all good. All right, listen. Clay from Brooklyn, Football with the Fellas. And who am I here with?
It's your man Mazo. It's all about Big Blue. Hey,
yes, sir.
It's post-draft time right now. And you know what? We're staying positive. Last season was last season. We're on to this season. We're going to be positive. The Giants are going to do it. Well, we hope.
We're going to do better.
They're going to do better. They're going to do better.
Absolutely. And we'll be here to talk about it fairly often, so stay tuned.
Oh, yeah.
Share, subscribe, all that.
Oh, yeah. And thank you for all subscribers up to this point. We love, we appreciate you guys.
Oh, yeah. Right. The numbers growing. We appreciate it.
Until next time, y'all. Peace. Big shout out to El Marquis Productions, the talent behind the music and production here at Football with the Fellas. It's all about Big Blue. Their beats bring energy and excitement to every episode. El Marquis' skills in mixing, mastering, and creating top quality sound make the podcast come alive each week. For your own projects, check out elmarquisproductions.com and take your sound to the next level.